Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and it's Women's History Month, and I'm here today to talk to you about some of my favorite female voice actresses that I've grown up with since I was a child and who have entertained me. So, when it comes to voice acting, it's not easy. You gotta have a certain tone and a certain range, and you gotta be able to manipulate your voice to sound like other like people and stuff. And when it comes to voice acting, there are like a lot of famous voice actors and actresses. And I'm a fan of so many of these people because, when you're a kid, what do you watch? You watch cartoons. And, I don't really watch cartoons nowadays unless it's something older I used to watch in the past and I have on DVD. Or if it's like a superhero type thing, I'll watch that now. But a lot of the good stuff, that I grew up with. I just feel like some of the best cartoons ever. I have no idea what's going on today. I look at pictures, I'm like, what the heck is this? But the thing is, these talented people, a lot of them go unnoticed. Most you don't even know what they look like. A lot of female like voice actresses are hot. And so like the things they are able to do with just their voice is truly amazing, and they should really be appreciated a whole lot more. The depth, the range, the emotion. Like, I know sometimes if like a cartoon show or animated movie, gets like a lot of notice, it'll get like nominated for like an award, but mostly for like best animation, never really the voice category. Now, I don't know if there's an actual like, voice acting like award show, but if there's not, then there really should be. And not only that, but they shouldn't just have their own like award ceremony. They should be included like in the Oscars and the Emmys and stuff like that because they are actors. The thing is, you just don't see them. And when you go like on YouTube and you hear the voices come out their mouths and you're like, oh my God, like I remember you when I was a kid. Like it's so crazy and so uncanny and almost like a magical kind of thing. Like that's one thing I love about like going on YouTube or when you have like a DVD and you see them doing their voice acting. Like I was watching Tara Strong and she's just sitting in a chair and you see the director moving his hands around like I want you to do this and I want you to do that and she's just like ranging with her voice and it's like oh my God. And a lot of times like like say like The Simpsons Maggie, the actress actually uses her mouth to make the pacifier noise. And it's like, how the heck does she do that? That takes skill, you know what I'm saying? It takes practice. And these people need to be appreciated a heck of a lot more. And that's what's so good about like conventions and stuff like that. Like, you get to see them. I remember one time, see, I've never been a Pokemon fan because I just never really watched it. I watched a couple of episodes of the newer stuff, but I've never watched any of the older stuff. I was more of a Digimon fan, right? And so, like, I remember a couple of years back, nobody knew who voiced Ash, like what the woman looked like, until she appeared like at a convention like that and somebody recorded it. People's minds were blown because they had no idea one, Ash was voiced by a woman, and two, what the person actually looked like. And it's one of those uncanny, almost magical type things, you know what I'm saying? And a lot of these voice stars, they do appear in live action, but sometimes it's very, very rare. Like Tara Strong and Cree Summers, I saw them first in live action before I ever saw them in like, or heard them in animation. And it was just crazy to find out that's you. Like it's just like the most uncanny thing. And these voice actresses, man, they are in hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of like, shows and movies, like combined together, they rank up to like thousands, probably, you know what I'm saying? Or at least a good couple, like 100, 200, 500, something like that, you know, because they do so many projects and stuff. And you know, now with the curse of AI, a lot of them are having to fight for their jobs now, you know. Like I know Gray, you know, Lizzie, I think that's how you say her name. She hates AI and everything. She doesn't want her voice like, you know, duplicated with AI and stuff because she's not gonna get paid. And now, because so much stuff is on streaming, they don't even get the residuals that they used to get back in the day because it doesn't even come on TV. And because they've been in hundreds of thousands of like, you know, projects, a lot of that older stuff from like the 80s and stuff, there's nowhere to be found. And so this video is just like a little appreciation of just like, you know, my like, you know, enjoyment of hearing their voices. Like since I was like a little kid, you know what I'm saying? Now I'm like an old man and stuff. And it's, like I said before, man, it is crazy. But, you know, I'm not going to name all my favorites. This is just like a couple, like my top, like favorite ones, you know what I'm saying? So this list is in no particular order, but when I get to the number one spot, that is gonna be my favorite. And I'm kind of like, I don't know which is my favorite. I might just tie them. Like I just don't know, you know what I'm saying? But to start off the list, you know, I have to like, you know, give it up. And I can't even say her name. Yeardley Smith, who voices Lisa Simpson on like The Simpsons. I first saw her on Herman's Head, which was a show back in the 90s on Fox. And so like she just uses her regular voice. But the Lisa Simpson voice is so iconic that when you hear it, you know exactly who that is, you know? And Lisa, I've always liked Lisa back when I used to watch The Simpsons. I don't watch it no more. It's been on for way too long. I don't even know when I gave up on it. I think I gave up on it when Family Guy came around. And then I started watching South Park. Like it's just The Simpsons has just been on for too long and they've done everything to death. And so, but I've always liked Lisa because you know she had the spiky hair. She was like really smart and everything. And she was always a cool character in her own right. Nancy Cartwright, man, seriously, Bart Simpson. Who doesn't love Bart Simpson? You know, he's like he was just like the bad boy of the show. He was what is it, sarcastic and everything, always getting into trouble, but he had a soft side to him, you know. And Nancy's voice will always be synonymous in my head. Like, and she also voices other characters along with like, you know, the Lisa actress. Like Nancy also does like Maggie of all things, and she makes that pacifier noise and stuff. And she plays a couple of the bullies, but she mostly plays boy voices in like you know The Simpsons, because you know a lot of females have that younger guy sounding voice because real guys' voices you know start to age out. E.G. Daily. I'm not too familiar with her. I've seen her in live action on Friends. And I remember like when it comes to her voice, there are two roles I remember the most because most of the cartoons that she does, like you know, I don't watch. But I remember her as Buttercup and Tommy Pickles from Rugrats. But I never watched Rugrats, but I watched All Grown Up. And you know, Tommy was just like the cool kid, but it was Buttercup, man. It was Buttercup that really sold me over in my adult years and stuff, hearing her voice. Because Buttercup was just like so cool. And you know, she is so talented, like with music and voice acting and stuff. She should be recognized a heck of a lot more. Mae Whitman. Mae Whitman was more of my teen and adult years. I first heard her voice in Johnny Bravo. So I was probably like a teen, close to an adult, but mostly like an adult. And of course, she was Katara on Avatar The Last Airbender. And she also did those Tinkerbell animated movies. Now, I've seen her in live action before. She's done plenty of like television shows and movies. And she mostly does her own voice. And it's just like, when you hear it, that Katara voice, it will probably always be her best performance. There's something about Katara that, like, her voice is so soothing and everything. Katara could just talk about anything. You won't even care what it is about. You would just always enjoy what you hear. Calf Sorsey, when I was a kid, I mean like a kid, man, I heard her voice so many times, like especially like on Gargoyle, she'll play like, a princess and everything. And she always had that really unique quality to her voice that where she sound like when she was in Gargoyle, she sounds foreign, but you don't know what country she comes from, but it's kind of like a European type country. And it's very like soothing like on your voice, and she always sounded so regal when she played that princess. And then I think one time she might also be the actress from Attack of the Killer Tomatoes cartoon, the teenage girl that would turn into like a tomato and stuff. So I've always been a fan of hers, and she's been working, my god, for decades. Kath was also the voice of Dexter's mom from Dexter's Laboratory, and Phil and Lil from like Rugrats. Barbara Goodson. So she's most famous for Power Rangers, Rita Raposa. And she did the voice for Rita when there was two different actresses playing her. One was stock footage from like, the Japanese footage, and then they got like an American actress to play her, and then they always have Barbara like, do the voice. And that voice is beyond iconic if you're a Mighty Morphin Power Ranger fan. Like the range in which she could convey her voice to where she stretched it so much that, she started to have like voice problems and stuff. And even when they had their reunion, she still voiced the character today. Granted, her voice has gotten a bit older, but she still sounds like Rita Raposa. That cackle, that laugh, the oh, I have a headache, man. That will always be a part of my childhood. Jennifer Hale. I think the first cartoon she might have ever done was when she played Ivory on Where on Earth is Carmen Sandiego. I love that show to death. Like, and Ivory was such a cool character. She's also done things for Marvel. She was Catwoman in the Spider-Man cartoon. She was Jean Grey and Wolverine and the X-Men. Then she revoiced Jean Grey again when X-Men 97 came around because the original voice actress voice changed and stuff like that. She has this kind of like quirk to her voice that like the moment you hear it, like you know what it is, and she can change it up to sound more sultry and stuff like that. She was very much a part of like my teen years and stuff. Maybe child close preteens to adult, whatever year, like I think early 90s. So it was like, yeah, child going into teens and stuff. But the Carmen Sandiego show, she mostly uses her own voice, but it's always nice to hear it. Cree Summers. First time I ever saw her was on A Different World, and she's done like live action before. I remember I saw her in Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I had no idea she was the voice of Penny from Inspector Gadget. Man, I love myself some Penny growing up, and I love myself some Inspector Gadget. And so, like, of course, one of the most famous other voices she's done was Elmyra from Tiny Toons. Elmyra, my God. She was insane. I mean, insane loving animals. And so, like, Cree, I believe she's black and white. And she's American, but she was born in America, but lived in Canada. And a lot of the voices she does, she goes from like, black characters, white characters. I've mostly only heard her as white characters, but one of like the two like famous black characters I've ever heard her as is Max from Batman Beyond, where I think she just did her own voice. And then Foxy Love from like Drawn Together. Foxy Love was nuts. It was a cartoon, but my God, that thing should have been like it was kinda it was like I don't know what the rating was, probably like PG-13, maybe a little R. The thing should have been rated X every time Foxy came on screen. And of course, I can't forget Creed's most famous role playing that of Susie in Rugrats and All Grown Up. A voice that many people have heard since, they were like kids or teens or like whatever. Tess McNeely, I think that's her name. I remember her from my childhood, man. Like, because these people, they voice so many things, but like the thing I remember her from the most is Babs Bunny from Tiny Toons and Dot from Animaniacs. And, Babs, she gave it to you, man. She's blunt, she's sassy, she's smart. Who didn't love Buster and Babs Bunny from Tiny Toons? And Dot was just the cutest and everything. Now, these last two are my top favorite, like my all-time top favorite. And I can't decide who is my number one, but I don't want to tie them, like, you know what I'm saying? But it's hard because, like, I have to tie these two because, like, I just have to. I can't pick. I can't decide from either one. Because I've heard their voices millions of times from so many different projects I didn't even know they was in, and I heard their voices. And so, I'll put like number two, but even though they're tied, and it is the second place tie, goes to grade Lizzie. I think that's how you say her name. I'm not sure. She used to be called Grey Griffin. Man, I have heard this woman's voice like so many times. I've never seen her act in live action, but I know what she looks like and like her voice, like Azula from like Avatar: The Last Airbender. I can't talk. Airbender. Wubsy from Wow Wow Wubsy. Yes, I watched Wow Wow Wubsy back in the day. I was an adult and I don't care. I was babysitting and like I'm like, oh, this is kind of like a cool cartoon. And then once the kids left, it was on one day. I'm just like, I'm gonna watch it. It was just like the cutest little thing ever. And she was Wubsy and everything, and she's been Daphne in like Scooby Doo for like 100 years and stuff. She took it up in like the 2000s, I believe. And of course, she's Vicky from Fairly Odd Parents, and she's been in so many other projects before, but those are probably her most iconic and my all-time favorites. Gray might just be the most famous like American voice actress in my opinion, like of all time, because of all the multiple roles in which she has like done, you know what I'm saying? So also tied at number one, coming in at number one is Tara Strong. Is it Tara or is it Tara? I'm not even really sure. She used to be called something else. Tara, some of the C. Shoving off or something like that. I can't remember. It's funny. The first time I actually saw her was actually in one of those Sabrina the Teenage Witch live action movies, the second and the third. I thought she was British. She had brown curly hair and she put on a British accent for some reason and stuff. And I, honest to God, thought she was British. And then so I remember, like, when I started watching the New Adventures of Batman and stuff, I saw like a picture of her and I looked up online. I'm like, oh, wait, that's the same person from the Sabrina movies. Because she later took over the voice of Batgirl. And she just does her own voice for that. But like, she can change her voice to like a million different things, alter and tweak them. She was Raven from Teen Titans, where she mostly just used her voice, but kind of like a deeper demonic sounding thing. You know, she was Batgirl, like I said before. She was that new character on I can't say, I can't tongue tie. Wow Wow Wubsy and everything. She was, you know, in Fairly Odd Parents as Timmy of all people, Timmy Turner. You know, man, I watched the crap out of that as an adult. I love Fairly Odd Parents and stuff. And she was Bubbles, Bubbles. Oh my God, who doesn't love themselves some Bubbles, some Powerpuff Girls and stuff? And she's just been in so many projects. I can't even like name them all. She was even in Drawn Together as Princess Clara and also playing Toot from Drawn Together. Two completely different characters with two completely different voices and personalities and stuff. Like her voice is just like so gifted. Now I have also seen her once again in live action. She was on a show on Freevee. It was like some cop show. I think she was like a bad woman or something like that. I didn't really watch the show. I didn't like I tried to watch it for her, but it's just like I couldn't get into the show, so I would just like fast forward to like her scene for the first season. And now, like, that show is stuck on my freebie, like, continue watching thing. I cannot get it off. Like, I've tried and tried. Like, they need, every streaming site needs, like, to click a button and you can just erase it from your watch history. You shouldn't have to keep going to the last episode and then just fast forwarding through because it doesn't always work. Tara Strong might just be the most famous Canadian voice actress of all time. So that was just a list of a couple of like some of my favorite voice actresses from like since I was like a child on up into my 40s and stuff. So many decades of like rich animation, so many decades of like good quality voices. And it does bug me when say like they create like a new like say Scooby-Doo animated movie like that's not on DVD, but it's supposed to be like in theaters or something like that. And even though the voice cast has been doing it for a couple of not my camera over for a couple of decades and stuff, and like say Gray, been doing Daphne for like since like the 2000s. They go and they recast these people because they want like bigger name celebrities that do live action to bring in like a bigger crowd. But the thing is that does not work. They don't bring in that bigger crowd. It's not the talent that people come for. It's the characters and the story. You know what I'm saying? Like when people watch the Sonic movies, which I do not like, they didn't come because of the guy who voices Sonic, because most people have no idea who that dude is from Parks and Rec. They come because it's Sonic, Chris Pratt. Even though he has his fans, people not gonna see the Mario movie or the Garfield movie because he's in it. They're going for these iconic characters. And so if they're gonna go for these iconic characters, why not get the people that's been voicing them for decades and decades? I remember they was gonna recast the voice of Tails, which is another voice actress. I have no idea who she is. I might not. I'm not really 100% sure. But like fans campaigned and they got her in the movies and stuff, because she's been doing the voice for like since like the 90s or something or 2000s. And so I hate when these like studios, they don't appreciate the talent they already have. They want these big blockbuster people, but these big blockbuster people can't bring in the revenue no more. But you know who's bringing in the viewership? These small time like animated voice actors and actresses and stuff in television shows, animated movies, direct to DVD stuff. They're the video games, anime. They're the ones bringing in the viewership and the big bucks, and they aren't appreciated enough. Happy Women's History Month, everybody. All right, well, I'll talk to you later. Bye.